Well, welcome back to Keys and Gears. Thank you so much for joining us, Mark. What did we think about talk about today?
Today we're going to explore the 2025 real estate market. What are the trends that are coming our way? How to prepare you in case you're thinking about buying or selling a home today? This new market in 2025. Maybe you're thinking
Nice.
about investing in real estate.
Right?
You know, we're here to answer questions, keys and gears, meaning we're going to show you all the gears involved to get your keys, all the things that are going to happen that we can help you with and that we can educate you on. So that's what we're here for.
I love it. So I'm hearing you say our topic today is an answer to that question that you and I get on the regular at parties or chats or standing in
Yeah.
line at White Rock Coffee and getting
Yes.
coffee. And that is, how's the market? So we're going
Yes.
to do a 30,000 level view of how's the market for 2025, you're thinking.
In our opinion, and from what we're reading in our experts.
In our broken tea leaves.
Yes, well, and
cracked crystal ball.
You have experts that advise you, right? And I
Yes,
have
true.
experts on the lending side that advise me, and so we kind of get all that information together for you and explore where we think the market is headed. And first off, every real estate market is local, right? So every market's going to be a little different. So again,
Mhm.
we're going to give you a 30,000-foot view of what Dallas may be going through,
Mhm.
what Texas may be going through.
Since many of you are thinking about moving here,
Yes.
we still
And
have room.
it's not related to any other part of the country because we can't really speak to that part. So in terms of the lending side, we have seen rates fluctuate quite a bit in the last year. And I think that's going to continue because we don't know where we're going. And the overall, to give you a little background on where does the mortgage rate come from, right? That's
What's the gear behind the rate?
exactly. What are the gears that make the interest rate? It's your personal credit picture, right? That's number one. So how do you look to the bank? And so everybody's rate is personalized.
So whether they're risky or not risky.
Right. And so when you hear rates being quoted, they're not your rate. Okay. So first of all, recognize that if you hear a rate on TV or the radio or internet or wherever, it's not going to be your rate. Your rate is very personal to you. And how does that rate get priced? Meaning, how do you get to that rate? It's your own personal credit picture, but it's also what the investors want.
What the
Because
investors want.
What the investors want. So the investors
So you're
are
making it sound like it's a commodity that they're looking for.
right. So each interest rate is a bucket, right? Think of each interest rate a bucket: 6.99, 6.875, 6.5. Each of those are buckets that are capturing people, that are capturing the investor that wants to earn 6.875 interest rate on the money that they're lending you to buy your home. You're in that bucket. Okay. So each one of those buckets changes every day, all day, just like a stock market does. It goes up and down like a yo-yo. So what rate you quote in the morning may not be the rate that you quote in the afternoon.
No kidding.
And in really volatile times, for example, when COVID hit, we had rates that were promised, because a rate lock is just a promise. It's not actually a lock. It's a misnomer to call it a lock. It's a reservation.
A reservation.
The lender behind it, the investor.
Reservation has nothing to do with lock. Sorry to
Correct.
interrupt, but I'm like, what the heck?
Correct,
Oh,
exactly. So
geez.
it's a misnomer to call it a
Right.
lock. The industry calls it a lock. It's not. So
It's all about the packaging, I suppose.
exactly during volatile times, lenders may not be able to honor that rate. So even though you thought you were locked at 6.875, when it comes to closing day, you may not be at 6.875 because the market has moved so dramatically that the lender, the investor, is no longer funding that bucket of money. So it becomes, the gears that go into financing beyond just getting through the process. There's a whole lot of gears in the background that are happening in terms of the rate. So where does that go in 2025? We don't know. The Fed has lowered their funds rate at which rate they lend money to banks. That has a a side effect on mortgages. It's more of a perception of the market has, where we're going, that influences the mortgage rate.
So that's why in September when they lowered it, the interest rates the mortgage interest rates almost immediately increased, which seemed very counterintuitive.
Right. So when you listen to the media and some internet experts out there, they were saying, well, when the Fed lowers the rate, the mortgage rates will go down. Well, not necessarily. Okay. And
Interesting.
first of all, in September, when the Fed lowered by half a point, which was a big cut,
And we're talking about September 2024.
2024, the mortgage investor market had already figured that out. They had already figured out that the Fed was going to lower by half a point. They have their own experts that they pay a lot of money to figure this out. And so that's why you didn't see the rates react at all. They didn't come down. They had already come down previous to that because the investors were anticipating that this was what was going to happen. In December of 2024, when they lowered the rate again, we have too many other issues going on in the economy that are affecting our interest rates negatively. There's a lot of fear of more inflation. There's a lot of fear of geopolitical fear. Oil prices and gold prices are affecting mortgage rates. And why is that? The mortgage market, the investors that buy these buckets of money, these are large investors. These are not your mom and pop investors. These are big pools of money. And they will pull their money out of mortgages and put them into gold, or another commodity, or they put them into oil, another commodity. And so you see the market for the mortgages move up and down because these large investors are moving large amounts of money out, and that's what makes the rate move so much. And so when you have uncertainty in the world, they're looking for certainty. And if the housing market in the U.S. is not where they find certainty, they will pull their money out of it and put it somewhere else. So that means that those rates aren't available anymore. Now, if that investor will say, I'm at 6.875, I'm not interested, but I am interested at 7.5. So they'll put money into the market at 7.5%, drawing banks into 7.5, and that's how you end up with a 7.5 interest rate, because the investor said to the bank, I'm not giving you any money until you get to 7.5%.
Or essentially, I want this return.
Correct. That's the return I'm expecting, because that equals what I can make in oil and gold and other things that I invest in.
Which is why I'm hearing that's why inflation plays such a vital role, and the perception of future inflation rates plays such a role in interest rates.
Correct. Inflation drives interest rates up. So if you have a government that spends too much money, if you have COVID happen, if you have consumers that are spending too much money, that will drive inflation. It drives prices up. The more demand, the more inflation, right? So if our economy is doing that well, it will generate inflation on its own. Inflation is always there. It's just a matter of how much inflation. And so the projection for 2025 was, all of 2024, people were saying, oh, rates are going to come down, rates are going to come down. Me personally, I never made that promise because I don't know that.
Nudging you.
Yes. And
with your magic wand, Mark.
I don't know what's going to do in 2025. My real point to you really is, for the public, keep your eye on the right ball. Don't keep the interest rate is not the ball you need to keep your eye on. You need to keep your eye on what's best for your family. Do you need a bigger house? Do you need a different house? Do you need your first home? Do you want to invest in real estate? How does that fit into your life? That's the ball you need to keep an eye on, not what the rate is. The rate is the rate. And in the end, your budget will adjust to the rate.
Fair enough. Yeah.
And so don't be paying attention, is the rate up, is the rate down? That's like playing the stock market, trying to time it when you buy a stock. That never works.
Playing roulette at Las Vegas.
Never works.
Yeah.
We've had plenty of clients in the last 2 years who said, oh, I'm waiting until rates come back down, right? In the meantime, they've lost $80,000 in appreciation.
Correct.
by being
Correct.
penny wise and pound foolish.
Well, because home values
Have
are
skyrocketed,
generally
and
not going down.
they're not going down. You can count on a 4, 5, 6, 8% appreciation every year. Do the math. So what's the difference between a 7.5 interest rate and a 7% interest rate in payment over 3 years? What's the difference? And I can tell you it's a couple of $1,000s versus losing out on $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 of appreciation. What makes sense here?
So the difference is like 1 4-day spontaneous trip to Mexico, fire sale, vacation thing.
Exactly. So for me, the projection of, where are we going to be in 2025 interest rate wise, I don't care. As a consumer, you shouldn't care. As a consumer,
Mark, that doesn't
you should
make the headlines.
No,
That's
it
not the
does.
right
It doesn't sell. It doesn't sell newspapers. No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. It's scaring people into not buying a home when, if you're financially able to, you should be buying a home, because that appreciation train is not slowing down.
No.
So that house you're looking at today for $300,000 is going to be $350,000 next year. So
well, and that maybe that's another podcast as far as the value of a home and the rate and all that, because I can already hear people saying, but Mark, Florida's experiencing a home value drop, California's experiencing a home value drop.
We're talking about Texas. We're talking about Dallas, Texas,
Right.
Texas in general. That is not what's happening here.
Mark, my home isn't appreciating like it was when I bought it at the top of the market 2 years ago. Wah, wah, wah. Now what?
Right.
But it's not zero.
It's not zero. It's a forced savings account, as you've heard me say many a times. It forces you to save money. A home forces you to save money that you get when you sell the home. It's a piggy bank that you put money into every day. And you don't really, 4 or 5% return on your investment isn't bad.
No.
It's not a bad for something that's tangible, that's provided you a lot of benefit. Not just investment-wise, but owning a home is a lot of benefit to you as a person. Your own four walls, your own roof over your head.
And let's take apart the gears behind that statement, if you will, of that it's a forced savings account. If we can, real quick.
Right.
What exactly that means, because that's really the crux of what you're saying. Is yes, we can look at interest rates, and it's kind of interesting to talk about cocktail banter about, oh my gosh, Fred or Lucy Lou locked in at 6%, and well, I locked in at 6.5% or whatever it might be, right? But the forced savings account piece, I mean, let's break that out.
That it's really the appreciation of the property, right? So if the property is appreciating, let's make the math easy, $12,000 a year. That's $1,000 every month that you're putting into savings.
Very nice.
That isn't going away. That $12,000 next year is probably $15,000, right? So that $1,000 a month becomes $1,200, becomes $1,500 a month, becomes $2,000 a month that you're putting into your piggy bank without even realizing it. It's like the 401k where the employer matches your 401k. It comes to you. It doesn't come to you. The money is siphoned off before it hits your paycheck, right? It's the same thing in a home. The home is appreciating on its own without you doing anything. Now, the more you maintain your home, that's the ball in your court. The more you maintain your home, the more you keep up with your home, the better
Maybe you
chances.
can skew the appreciation rate
upwards,
right. More into your pocket.
Location. If you hire a real estate professional who guides you into buying in the right neighborhood, that helps a lot, right? But that's where the forced savings comes from. And people look at it as an investment. I look at it as more savings, because it's not an investment is meant to return, more percentage than that. An 8-10% return is an investment,
well
right?
Said. It's not, a home does not equate to the stock market.
No. The long-term return on stock market is like 8%, 7-8%. So it's still better to have a lot of money in the stock market long-term.
Very true.
Right. And real estate.
Because historically, Texas real estate is about a 5 to 6%
Right.
year over
Appreciation.
year appreciation.
And the other thing
In
to
a normal market,
yeah.
whatever that is nowadays. But
And
that's
and I
the
don't
baseline we're used to.
and 2025 is not going to change in terms of appreciation. We're in a housing shortage. There
Yes.
aren't enough homes to sell. There aren't enough homes to buy.
Mm-mm.
And so we're not going to see any, everybody, wants to hope that rates will come down. But think about this. Supply and demand on the real estate side isn't driving anything. And I wish it was. And there are ways for people that are currently in a low interest rate home. There are reasons for them to move. There are reasons for them to level up, to buy the next home. And those, we can talk about those in another
Totally, let's put
podcast,
a pin on that.
reasons for that, where I can show you where you're going to be better off going with another house at a higher interest rate and end up in the same place in terms of your monthly outflows and inflows. But in 10 years from now, you're going to own a much bigger house, much more expensive house. Your appreciation is going to leapfrog all of that. So again, that's where the financial planning comes in. You don't be penny wise and pound foolish by thinking, I'm doing myself a favor keeping my 4% interest rate in this current home.
I like
You may
that.
be shooting
I
yourself
like
in the
that.
foot.
So you need to analyze. You need to give your finances, your housing, a tune-up,
Yes.
and
Should
see if
be
that
every
gear,
year.
that house gear, is working you forward towards the life that you've got
Right.
in mind for
Right.
yourself in
Right.
5 years, 10 years,
Right.
15 years, 20 years.
It should be done once a year. Should be done a review of where are we on our real estate portfolio, right? Where are
Very
we?
nice.
So, but what is, from a real estate standpoint, what's the projection for 2025? What's the trend there?
Word on the street is for us real estate professionals to hold on to our pants because it's apparently the market. People are projecting it's going to be bananas.
Yeah.
I've heard one highly respected real estate guru say that he expects the rate of transactions year over year, meaning from last year to this year, from 2024 to 2025,
Right.
is going to the volume is going to increase at least 12%. So that means 12% more transactions in February, let's say, of 2025 over February of 2024.
That would be great. That would be fantastic.
That's what he's saying. And so, and if that's the case, then it won't be at the 2020 level. At least in Texas in 2020 was bananas. I don't think it's going to be that, but it's definitely going to be different than the slight malaise we have felt in 2023 after the interest rate doubled almost overnight.
Overnight, yeah. But 2020, those are outlier years. Those
For
are
sure.
Those are not years that we should hold as a standard or as something that
I heard someone actually, it's a great segue. I heard someone say that 2020 was like the year of crack. Like everybody had a crack hit with real estate.
Absolutely. And they did, and it felt like that, right? Those of us who were in the market at that point, it was mayhem. It was mayhem to deal with because we had COVID and all of it happening all at once, and we were slammed. I had many 14, 15, 20-hour days during that time. So and that's why I'm saying it's such an outlier that I don't look at it that way. I look at it pre-COVID and post-COVID.
For sure.
And I compare the two,
Well, fair enough. I mean, if we compare
like
anticipated 2016 to 2019, maybe I'll go with you to 2019.
Yeah.
I mean, because 2016, there's too much inflation, too much
Right.
other things that are going on.
Right.
Anyway, we didn't have the war in Ukraine going on. We didn't have Israel.
Yeah, but there's always a fire burning around the world somewhere.
Fair enough.
It's
back to your uncertainty.
It's like again, which ball are you keeping your eye on?
Right.
And it boils back down to it really doesn't matter what's happening in the world. Now, if the world comes to an end, who cares, right? But if things are happening in the world, how is that affecting you in terms of owning a home?
Mm-hmm.
And the answer in most people's, the answer most people give is not all. So why are you paying attention to it? Addition by subtraction, take those things out of your life. Don't pay attention to them. Pay attention to what's good for you and your family, right? You're renting a home right now that's costing you $2,500 a month. You're better off
Boom.
buying a house that costs you $3,500 a month because you'll make way more money that way. Yes, it's a stretch for your budget, but you're still better off than renting that $2,500
And
house.
why is that? Let's feed off of what you said earlier, which is it's a forced savings account.
Yeah.
Right. How do you harvest that savings account? How do you cash in that savings account? And that's my riff on your statement of it's an enforcement is to look at my sweet people and say, especially my first time home buyers, when you tell your landlord that you're moving out in 30 days and that 31st day comes and he walks through and says, yeah, it's good. Is he going to give you a check, a refund
Yes.
on all that rent
Yeah.
that you have paid the previous
Tens
12
of
months,
thousands of
24
dollars.
months, blah,
Yes.
blah. And they always laugh.
Yeah.
Right? I hope you're laughing right now. You're like, oh, Bess, what? No.
Of
but
course. Yeah.
Seriously.
Of course he wouldn't pay me back.
Landlord, no, because you've paid his boat payment and his second home.
Yes.
He's not going to be paying you that back.
Right.
Right. But versus if you own a house, when Susie Q loves your house that you have up for sale,
Right.
and she talks to Mark, and Mark writes a check.
Yep.
Who does he write the check to? He writes the check to
You.
you,
Yep.
the seller.
Yes.
You put that in your pocket, or you roll it into
You're
the next house.
You're your own landlord.
Right? So essentially, you have to pay to live somewhere.
Yep.
That's where, why not pay yourself?
Yep.
Even if, cycling backwards, even if we do flatline and you have a year-over-year growth of 0, not to shoot a hole in your investment bucket.
Right.
But even
If it's 0.
even if it's 0, the fact is when you sell the house, someone is going to give you a check.
Yeah.
Essentially a refund.
Yeah. Right.
On your rent.
Right.
Granted, it was renting from yourself.
Right.
But they're going to give you a check as a refund on your rent.
You're acting
while
as
you
your
were
own
in
landlord.
that house.
Yep. Absolutely.
That is the lie.
And
That is the lie.
That's how you pay yourself back.
That
right?
is how you pay yourself back. Woo! What a great insight. What a great takeaway as we wrap up this episode of Keys and Gears. There's what we think is going to go on in 2025.
2025, 2025.
You're
Focus on what's best for you. And if home buying is something that you should be doing, then do it regardless of what the trend is. So bottom line is the trend doesn't matter. The trend is whatever you make it. Whatever you need in your life is your trend. That's your trend. Who cares about what the other trends are? If the rates are up, the rates are down, doesn't really matter because the end goal is still the same.
A great mindset key to the gears of real estate in your life.
That's right.
Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.